Hey everybody, we are back with another episode of Family Meeting Podcast.
Wow.
By the time you're watching this, Father's Day will have passed. I hope that you had a great day. We're recording this ahead of time because we're going to be headed to Alabama because we've got a pastor's meetup over there, and then we've got a friend of ours having a baby shower from when we lived in Alabama, and they're basically family to us.
Yep.
So, recording this ahead of time. I'm looking forward to Father's Day. I do a couple things, so it's a day where I just relax, don't do much.
After preaching.
Right, gotta work still, but the afternoon I'm gonna come home. I think I'm gonna have like blackened fish with like a blackened crab mixture on top. And then I'm gonna do a cheat meal for supper. Probably go to the beach, but gonna do Papa John's stuffed crust pizza for supper. So been eating pretty well, trying to maintain my diet and all that. But it's Father's Day. I'm gonna celebrate.
This is your chance, baby.
So I like to have my wife around, like to have my kids around. So
yeah, and you don't want anything on the calendar, like no scheduled anything. It's like if you feel like going to the beach, we go to the beach. If you feel like laying in bed, we lay in bed.
Yep. If the weather's nice, we'll probably go to the beach. Maybe take a short nap, go to the beach, come home, have pizza. So it's
probably watch a movie.
Gonna be a great day. Yeah, looking forward to it. Hopefully you had a great Father's Day. I'd love to hear all about it.
The girls picked out a pretty cool present for Thomas, so we'll make sure that we post that on our social media. They picked out something simple, but that they thought of him, and it's really cute.
Cool.
So I'm excited for him to get this little present.
Yeah, looking forward to it. But I'd love to know what you love about Father's Day. Do you like to just chill out and relax? Do you want to be by yourself? Or do you want to be with your family? And what cool gifts did you get? Did you get anything cool? So post it there in the comments, and we'll continue that discussion. Today, going to be talking about Hurried Child Syndrome. And some of you are like, what's that? Yeah. We're going to tell you all about it. And I think it'll be a good conversation for today. And with that, I think we're about ready to get started. You got anything else you want to add before we jump into it?
I do not. I'm just going to have another drink.
Okay.
But go right ahead.
Going to prepare yourself? Mm-hmm. All right. Gather around, everybody. It's time for a family meeting. The Family Meeting is a show that's all about family relationships. We're the Osterkamps. I'm Thomas. This is my wife, Thirsty.
Thirsty for more.
Yeah. What are you thirsty for? Just water or other things?
Loving. Hello and welcome to our family. Welcome to episode 247 of the Family Meeting Podcast. We're glad that you are with us today.
Yes.
On today's episode, we're going to look at Hurried Child Syndrome. I mean, there is a hidden cost to rushing childhood, and how can we possibly slow this thing down? I know that as I look at our 4 teenage daughters, 19, 18, 17, 14, I feel like it went so fast. I knew it was going fast. I knew it would go fast, and I couldn't slow it down. But there is this thing happening in our culture where we are pushing kids to grow up. We're pushing them to get as much into their schedules as possible. And there really is a hidden cost to it. So we're going to talk about that today.
Before we do that, though, I want to talk to you men out there because I think sometimes as men, we feel like we have to have all the answers. We got to carry all the weight. We have to be able to figure everything out. And unless we feel like everything's just going to collapse, and then we'll finally reach out for support or help or encouragement. But we need to change our perspective because, think about your car. Your car, most likely for you guys, you take it in on a regular basis or you do the maintenance yourself. Some of you are very manly like that. I'm not like that. I can do a few things on my car, but I'm not gonna change the oil in my car. I'm not gonna take the time to do that. I don't enjoy that. Some of you, that's your fun. Mm-hmm. But you do the regular maintenance, or you take it in for the regular maintenance. And we need to think about ourselves that way as well. Think about our relationships that way as well. So if there's an area of your marriage that you feel like, you know what, I just need a little bit of guidance, a little bit of direction, a little bit of coaching in that area, that's exactly what I'm here for, is to help you do that. Just scheduled a coaching call with a husband and a father just yesterday. And so I want to encourage you to go to our website, familymeeting.org, hit the shop tab. You'll see coaching options there. So if you just want to reach out to me and get some coaching on marriage, get some coaching on being a parent, a father, great, you can do that. Or ladies, maybe you just want to talk to Lysandra a little bit and get some perspective there. You need a little bit of coaching on being a wife and a mother. That option is available. Or you say, you know what, I'd like to sit down with both of you and get both perspectives, or as a husband and a wife, sit down with both of you. That option of coaching is available as well. So reach out today. We're here to help you have the meaningful relationships that you want. And part of that is sitting down with you every week in the podcast and social media and all that interaction. But another part is getting that one-on-one or two-on-two coaching to just help give you some direction and some guidance on some of the issues that you're facing. Once again, that's familymeeting.org/shop. And you can find exactly what you're looking for to get the ball rolling. As soon as you select and the coaching session you want, we will shoot you an entry email, a few standardized questions as you come in to give us an idea of what you're looking for help for. That will help us guide the coaching conversation with you, and we'll get that scheduled right away. So hit that shop tab right now.
All right. On the family meeting, we have lots of goals. Our main goal is to help you have meaningful relationships with your family, whether that's your nuclear family, your spouse, your in-laws, whatever it may be. But that is our goal. And one of the aspects of your family relationships deals with parenting. And it's our goal to explore what really matters in parenting and education and raising emotionally healthy kids that will grow up to have an awesome impact on the world for Jesus. We are Christians. We follow Jesus. Yeah. That is our goal, to be more like him, to raise children who are like him. And today's episode, I think, is going to hit home to a lot of parents, because today's episode is all about hurried child syndrome. Are we pushing our kids to grow up too fast? Are we pushing them to have overloaded schedules and to have the stress of constantly being rushed from one thing to the next? And what does that look like? And how do we know when enough is enough? And how do we make the change? Maybe we say like, okay, this is a problem in our family, but I don't know how to change, to turn the ship, so to speak. So that's kind of what we're going to look at today.
I think maybe next episode needs to be on hurried parent syndrome, because there's times in our lives where it feels like I'm just running here and there and everywhere for these kids. The girls right now are talking about volleyball season because they're getting ready for that coming up in just a couple of months here. But pretty soon they're going to be having open gyms and workouts and all that stuff. And it just like volleyball season for us has been nuts, where we're taking the kids somewhere every day.
Yes. And in fact, tomorrow morning starts a volleyball clinic for them. That they're going to do. So volleyball season really is upon us now, even though the season hasn't begun. This is the prep part of that and the training season. And so it's here.
But it's been nice since the girls got a little older and we've had a driver that could drive them and take them. So it's like
game changer.
Not one of us, especially. So a couple years ago, we had just one vehicle. And so there were times where I would drive Lysandra to a paint job, drop her off, go pick up the kids, take them to volleyball, and then have to do something else, and then go pick the kids up from volleyball, and it was just like,
and then pick me up from painting.
Run here, there, everywhere. Yeah, it was nuts. But for some of you, like that's your life all the time,
all season, all year long.
Yes, all the time.
And a lot of times, sports seasons overlap, and you've got kids in different things. It's tough.
It's hard for parents. It's hard for kids also. And so one of the things that we're trying to encourage you to do is, hey, let's just slow down. Mm-hmm. Let's slow down and take a look at what happens when childhood gets rushed. And it feels just like more and more as time goes on, there's that push to make kids act and behave older than they actually are. Mm-hmm. Now, I know when our firstborn came along, there's kind of this pressure to keep them young, right? But the more kids you have, I noticed by kid number 4, Violet coming along, so you've got that little bit of age gap, so they're trying to get up there with their siblings, and so their childhood gets a little rushed that way also.
Well, and I feel like I always expected more of Violet than I did of Catherine at each age.
Yeah.
Because for Catherine, everything that she learned how to do, which Catherine, for those of you who don't know, Catherine is our firstborn. So everything that Catherine learned how to do, it was like, wow, good for you. You're so grown up. And then for Violet, it was constantly like, why can't you tie your own shoes? Come on, tie your own shoes. Everybody else can. And then you have to realize, man, at that age, Catherine wasn't tying her shoes. I'm pushing Violet to be something she can't be yet.
Yeah.
And so it's really weird how that dynamic shifts the more kids you have and the older they get.
But maybe you're like me when you first heard the phrase, like, what is hurried child syndrome? Like, what are you even talking about? The term hurried child syndrome was first coined by psychologist David Elkind in his book, The Hurried Child. And it refers to a situation where children are pressured to take on adult rules, academic demands, and social issues before they're developmentally ready. So basically, like, we're pushing them to become adults when they're only children.
That's right. Yeah. And I feel like we see this all the time nowadays.
And it can look different. So it could look like, hey, your child's 3, but you're trying to push them to be 7. Or they're 7, you're trying to push them to be 13.
Yeah.
Your 14-year-old, we've got a 14-year-old. Like, pushing her to be an 18 or 19-year-old and have those same responsibilities, like, that's not fair to her. She's 14, and we need to kind of keep that in mind.
Right. One aspect of this hurried child syndrome is being overscheduled. I think actually this might be the biggest aspect for me. Like, when I think about this and how it actually plays out in real life, is this overscheduled.
Yeah.
Like, and your overscheduled might not look like my overscheduled, and you might be looking at Thomas and me and you're like, I see what you guys are doing on social media. You guys are overscheduled.
Yeah.
And I'm not disagreeing with you. So there are all different variations of what people consider to be overscheduled. But this can look like, oh, go ahead.
Well, I just want to say, it's one thing for us to make a willful choice to schedule things for ourselves.
Yeah.
It's another thing for us to place a lot of demands on our children when they're just children.
Absolutely. And I remember having multiple times in my life where I was like, it felt like the only thing I was telling the kids is, hurry up. I have to get to this next appointment. Hurry up. And that happened more when they were younger, because pretty much wherever mom goes, the kids go. Like, I wasn't leaving the kids home alone. And I was, of course, scheduling all of my meetings and appointments back to back to back with very little room except for traveling to the next thing. And so I remember many times where I felt so bad that I constantly was telling the girls to hurry because we're trying to get to the next thing.
Yeah.
And it's not their things. I mean, sometimes it was. Sometimes it was play dates and, appointments with other kids and moms. That was very, very normal for us. But it was other things too.
Oh, and I do have people who ask me, like, how do you get done all the stuff that you're doing? It's like, but these are things I've chosen. Like, I've chosen to take on the lead pastor role at Beachside Community Church. So that's something I've chosen for myself and all that entails. Like, I've chosen to do what we do here with family meeting, with the podcast and going to speaking and coaching and all the stuff that goes along with that. I've now chosen to be the chaplain for our county fire department with 11 stations, 121 firefighters. So that's a responsibility that I've chosen. I have made a choice to co-lead a network for pastors, Pastors Connection Network. Got a lot of responsibilities with that. Chosen because I like to live in Florida to paint houses, right? So we've got all these other things, and then you add family and different things on that. Like, but these are things that I've chosen to fill my schedule with My kids did not choose any of these things.
No.
So, placing demands on my kids because of the choices I've made or expectations I've placed upon them are totally different.
That's right.
Than what we choose for ourselves.
Yeah. And the average kid in America, in our culture, is just overloaded with different things in their schedules. You think about academic work. There's a lot of pressure to perform well academically, even when they're tiny. Like, this isn't just high school, guys. This is like, we're seeing this when kids are very small. And with
just to get into certain kindergartens, there's so much competition and stuff for kindergarten.
Absolutely.
Like, we're talking about 5-year-olds and they're competing and all this stuff to get into a kindergarten.
Yeah. And then I hear parents talk, because we homeschooled our kids, so we have a different perspective on academics a lot of times. But I hear parents of kids who are going to private schools and public schools, and they are saying, like, they're in school 8 hours a day and they come home with lots of homework. And when they get home, they're doing homework for hours. And then you've got multiple kids. That's going to look, wow, that's going to be like you're doing a little bit of homeschooling in your own home after what they've already been expected to do all day long at school. And just to keep up with the academic expectations, there's so much academic work at home as well.
Yeah. Which, we don't promote any single type of education for any family. Like, we always say you have to choose what's best for your family in that year and in that moment. So,
and even for each individual child each year.
So we're not knocking any particular thing, but I think that some of the things are just taken to such an extreme.
Right. And I don't think all schools are like that, but I'm just saying what I have heard some parents express to me, that they're so frustrated. What else are our kids' schedules just packed with? Extracurriculars. Thomas mentioned for us volleyball, but some of you have multiple kids in multiple sports, and then you've got dance, and you've got all these other things, these extracurriculars. They're doing their piano lessons. They're doing all these things.
Yeah.
Or other structured activities. And I even think about church activities, which we are very pro church activities, getting them in youth group, taking them to VBS, like doing those things that are really positive for them. But when you add up all these things, these kids are overscheduled. And they have very little time for like unstructured play, like where they can just play at home or go to the park and just play. Some children have very little time for relaxation.
And I don't know what it is. I'm just getting old.
You are.
That's true. But I feel like things have changed so much since I was a kid.
Oh, man.
My childhood was not filled up with a ton of stuff. It was a lot of just like making sure, taking responsibility for my own play and all of that kind of stuff. Like, my parents didn't make sure that I was happy and
our happiness was last on their list.
I don't mean happy. I just mean like having fun and all that kind of stuff. So it was like I went outside and I created games to play, and we did stuff. We spent a bunch of time outside. Like, kids today don't have time to actually feel boredom and then develop the creativity that boredom brings.
Exactly. Yes, because creativity only happens when you're bored, when you're a child.
And I think there's a lot of factors for that. I think screens and all of that has really changed things. But I don't know. I just remember a lot of time for me spent outside figuring out what I was going to do that day.
Yeah, and yet when you look back at that, correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't look back at that like those were the worst days. Those were some of the best days.
Yeah.
For your childhood, right?
Because, we got our chores and stuff done, and then we just went outside and we played.
For hours. And, I remember, let me share, a quick thing that I remember specifically.
We sound so old right now, I recognize that.
I know. So I am 40, just to give you an idea of how old I am.
You don't look a day over 41.
Wow. Okay. When we are not being recorded on YouTube, you're going to pay for that.
I'm sure I will, but I'm into that, so.
Okay. So I remember, being a kid in the summer, school's out, we've got all our neighborhood friends and stuff, and I lived in a really small town in Iowa, Walker, Iowa. Oh, Walker, Iowa. I'm going to go back there in a month and get to just walk the streets again. But as soon as our chores were done, we just were free the entire day, and our parents had no idea where we were. or what we were doing, as long as the chores were done, they didn't care. So we did our chores, we'd get on our bikes, and we would go. There's a stream that runs through Walker, and there was this area where it was all a bunch of trees. And so somebody along there had cut down a couple of trees with a chainsaw and made stumps. And we stumbled upon those stumps one day. And I don't even know whose land it was. I don't know if it was city property or what, but we didn't know and didn't care. And we went in there and we stacked all those stumps in like a house. We made it into a house with different rooms. And so it was kind of like a map, like a blueprint for a house with different rooms. And then we like scavenged in the woods to find food and to find things that could make cups and plates and all of these things. And then we turned it went from like a house to like military. And then we had like colonels in the military.
Okay.
And we like came and, we reported for duty. And then our officer told us what we needed to do. And we'd go out into the woods and do the thing and bring stuff back. And it was like,
no offense, but like, if you're in the military, our country is doomed. I mean,
yeah, I never.
You're the last person we want defending our nation.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'd be fired quickly.
Yeah.
But what's cool about that is like that little pile of cut up wood created weeks of play for us.
Yeah, like a whole world.
Yeah, we created a world down there, and every day we would meet back there after our chores were done, and we'd do something else with it. And so you just think about that kind of creativity. Like, I don't feel like kids are getting that on the average nowadays.
On the average, yeah. There are still families and kids who do that.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. But just something to think about, like unstructured play and relaxation and creativity and boredom is good for your child.
Yeah.
Now, there are a lot of causes for Hurried Child Syndrome. Parental ambition is probably the biggest. I think parental ambition, or sometimes parental guilt. Like a parent feels guilty that their child isn't in dance when this child is in dance. Or a parent feels guilty when a child is like, my friend gets to dance and look at their pretty costumes. I want to do that. And so then you feel guilty like, okay, baby, I know you really want this. I'm going to let you do this thing.
Well, I think most of it comes from a good place of, I want my child to experience things. I want them to succeed and be successful in life. I think you'll always have those parents who are, kind of living vicariously through their kids. And so they put them in certain things. But I think for the most part, it comes from a good place.
Yeah, we all want the best for our kids. Absolutely. Right? But also there is, I think, this idea of like, I never got to do dance because my parents were too poor. So I want to make sure my kids can do dance.
Yeah.
But what you don't understand is
that vicarious thing.
Yeah. Yeah. But what you don't understand is that maybe the best thing for you is that you couldn't afford dance because then you created your own fun. Not that dance is wrong. I don't know why I'm like landed on that, but...
it's expensive from what I know.
It's very, very expensive.
Like, yeah. I'm glad that none of our girls are into that.
Amen.
Volleyball is expensive enough.
But I will tell you this, and I don't even know if you know this, but our girls constantly asked if they could do dance when they were little. Like, did you know that?
No.
Yeah, because they were home with me, and I was like, no, honey, that's not something we're going to do. Because we couldn't afford it, but they had cousins who danced, and they had friends who danced, and so they got the, like, hand-me-down costumes when they were done with it.
Okay, yeah.
So then they had these costumes, and they're like, wow, these are amazing, which, by the way, the costumes are amazing.
Yeah. And you pay for them, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And so I would just be like, no, but you can dance at home in your costumes, which sounds so pathetic. And trust me, there was a bit of guilt for me. But looking back, I'm really glad we didn't do it. Anyway, that's all. That's a case-by-case scenario, whatever you feel like you need to do. But let's talk about these causes of Hurried Child Syndrome. It may be a parent's anxiety about the future, like making sure that my child has all the tools they need to succeed and the academics and the extracurriculars and the cultural things. And it could be a cultural emphasis on success and productivity.
Yeah.
So like our culture definitely glorifies being busy and glorifies success and glorifies productivity, all of which are a good thing. Like, it's good to be productive. We want our children to have that. We want our children to be successful. But of course, then we can sometimes take it to an extreme.
Well, and the cool thing, like, there's a lot of things I don't like about technology. And trust me, I'm not anti-technology. I love technology probably too much.
Yeah.
So, but there's a lot of things that I love about technology. Obviously, there's harmful things as well. screen time for kids and all that, social media too early for kids, and even on adults. Like, there's so many studies, doom scrolling and all that. But one of the great things now is, like, you used to have to, like, if I want my kid to have a really good education, you would look at institutions like Harvard and Princeton and all that, and you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. But, you can get the same education, like, learn exactly the same stuff online and save yourself literally tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, so I love that things are changing in that direction. It's becoming so much more affordable for people to be able to get a good education and gain the information they're looking for.
Right. So it's open to anyone and everyone from any class level, education, race, whatever, location, Yeah, that's
Which
awesome.
I heard this. This has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but we're talking about parents wanting kids to get an education, all that. I just heard the other day that, is it Stanford? Either Stanford or Harvard. I have to go back and look it up. But this just came to my mind. For certain students who meet an academic requirement, if your family makes under like $200,000, like, you get a full ride scholarship.
Wow.
So it's like,
awesome.
yeah, like, they're doing things like they're like, hey, we want to make sure we have the smartest minds in here, even if they can't afford it.
They're leveling the playing field.
Yeah, which I think is a great thing, especially for families who don't make a lot of money.
So other causes for hurried child syndrome can be media and technology accelerating exposure to mature content. And our kids are seeing stuff that we never saw at at those younger ages.
No, I mean, the age, I forget what it is, like 9, 10, 13, something like that, is the average age a kid sees porn today.
Yeah, that's
like so
young.
So young. They're exposed to all kinds of stuff.
And we actually had kind of a situation creep up on us with this, and that was our youngest daughter, Violet, who is 14. She was just having some emotional issues, like dealing with some anger and some self issues, like being self-conscious and things like that. And we have lots of rules for the girls for their phones until they turn 16, and then the rules loosen up a little bit. But she always has to ask to be on her phone. And, I do the old, like, did you read your Bible? Did you do your chores? Is your schoolwork done? Did you do something outside? Okay. Yes, you can be on your phone. So that's kind of what I got in this rhythm of doing with her. And what I didn't realize is, even though she has no Netflix or Prime
social
Video
media
or social media or anything, she was getting on YouTube and watching videos, which is all of the same TikToks or whatever else she had access to. And I didn't really think about it.
YouTube Shorts.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. And so eventually I realized she's watching these videos because she's telling us about funny videos and stuff. And she wasn't watching anything naughty, But I realized that these were affecting her emotionally because she's so young. She's seeing, like, the girls with the makeup and the hair and the, like, all this stuff, materialistic things. And I'm like, oh my goodness, you're watching videos. She's like, yeah, am I not allowed to watch videos? And I'm like, you know what? We need to stop that. So no more videos.
Limit it, yeah.
And she's not allowed to at all anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gone. The only thing she can do on her phone is play the games that we have allotted her, and like text us and the family and stuff. So, all of these different things though can really affect this hurried child syndrome. And education systems also focusing on like testing and early performance, which goes along with the academic pressure. But that can also kind of lead to these children growing up so soon.
Well, and you kind of mentioned mature content, and one of the issues that causes the hurried child syndrome is being exposed to adult problems like money or relationships earlier than they need to be.
And we talked about that very recently in an episode on how much do you let your kid know about the finances of your family and that weight, and how much weight do you give them and how much do you withhold from them?
Yeah. And so, they can be exposed to topics like sex, violence, financial stress too early. And before they're actually ready and capable of understanding and handling those issues. So they feel this pressure to understand or respond to adult concerns before they can handle it.
Yeah.
And that is a lot of weight to put on kids. I mean, you're putting weight on 9-year-olds that aren't meant for 9-year-olds, or 14-year-olds that aren't meant for 14-year-olds.
Exactly. And another aspect of hurried child syndrome is that these kids are pushed into academic milestones too early. So high expectations for early achievement and performance can happen. And I think about this because our two oldest were dual enrolled through homeschooling and our Daytona State College, our community college, local
Which
college.
is a great program.
Amazing.
I mean,
We love it. We could not sing its praises higher. It's fantastic.
Second born just graduated high school and with her AA.
Yeah, she has her AA degree, and she's going to be entering a private college basically as a junior.
Yeah.
Because of this at 18.
She'll save her a lot of money.
Tons
and
of money.
notice I said her.
Yeah, she's paying for her own school. But anyway, so Violet is a freshman this coming school year, and she's like, "Mom, I want to dual enroll." And I'm like, "You can't dual enroll. You're only 14." And she's like, "No, I think I can." So of course I have a meeting at the college, and I'm like, I had to kind of revisit the whole like starting off, because the older two, it was like 3 years ago that I went through that whole process with them. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, what do we have to do to start this thing again? And how old can you be?
Yeah. When can they start?
Yeah. So here is what just like knocked me out of my seat.
So this is from our advisor.
This is from our advisor at the college. Middle schoolers can dual enroll at a community college.
Yeah.
So you can have middle schoolers taking college courses.
You're talking about 6th, 7th, 8th grade.
Yeah. And I like don't know how I feel about that. There's part of me that's like, okay, our college is too easy. That's like my first thought. My second thought is like, should they be taking college courses when they're that little? They're still little. Middle school's hard.
Yeah.
Middle schoolers are dealing with tons of emotions, puberty, peer pressure, like a lot.
Well, and there are some amazingly bright like kids who they should at 6th grade they should be taking college courses because they're that intelligent.
Yeah, gifted and all that.
Yeah, totally.
Yes, and I understand that, but I'm just saying, like, I don't know, it just
like I know at 6th grade I was not at all ready to be taking a college course.
I wasn't academically smart, but I was definitely mature enough to like, I could have walked into a college probably at that age and been like, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
Because I went to my sister's college and shadowed her for a week and went to all of her classes, and I found them so interesting, took tons of notes and everything.
Yeah.
When I was that age, but
Not me.
yeah, you weren't, that was not, you were on the
still
basketball
not ready.
court.
Still not ready to be in college courses.
Oh, whatever. This guy was on the dean's list every single semester of his college career. He never had to study and aced everything. So don't let him fool you. But anyway, so yeah, there's a lot of kids being pushed into advanced learning material before they're really developmentally prepared. And so the result is children who are technically excelling.
Sure.
They're actually doing great, but they're emotionally overwhelmed. So let's look at how that shows up.
So emotionally, these kids may be anxious, moody, or easily frustrated.
Okay, that just, that's all middle schoolers, but no.
Yeah, it could be for sure.
But they could be excessive.
Right, because they're carrying a stress and a weight that they're not intended to actually carry. And that is going to come out some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Like they may be performing well on the volleyball court, in the dance studio, in the recital, and
On the test.
on the college course, right? But that's still a weight they're not meant to carry all of that. Most kids. Most kids aren't intended to carry that. Once again, we know there are kids out there that, hey,
Exceptions.
they're far exceeding everybody else. So that's going to come out in different ways. They can worry about perfection or fear failure, which is so unfortunate. I think that we really have made failure an enemy
Yeah.
when failure is a tool for us to learn and grow.
Failure is a teacher, and it's good for us.
And we need to teach our kids to embrace failure. Right? Try your hardest, do your best. If you fail, you'll fail, and we'll learn from it. We'll pick up, we'll learn, and we'll grow. And there's a lot of adults that need to learn that lesson too.
Right.
I think even a lot of parents, like, we fear failing as a parent.
Yeah.
It's like, we're all doing this for the first time, even if it's your fourth kid. Like, I've never had 4 kids before.
Yeah.
So we're all doing what we're doing for the first time. These stages for each kid for the first time. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to fail. All right. You know what? I failed as a parent in this area on this day. Let me own that. Let me apologize for whatever mistake I made, and I'm going to learn from it. Like, failure is not your enemy. Failure is not the worst thing that can happen to you or your child. We've kind of made it the enemy. This is not what this podcast is about. We could do a whole episode probably. So there's going to be stress and anxiety involved, right?
Yeah.
They're going to feel that. And I mean, you think about, I think there's a lot of factors, but I don't think it's just like happenstance that so many of our kids have mental issues that are struggling with depression, with anxiety, and all that kind of stuff. Like, obviously, I know there's a lot of issues.
There's a lot of other factors.
Yeah. But, the pressure that's placed upon them is, I think, a big part of it. And you've got this pressure to meet unrealistic standards that will lead to emotional and psychological stress. So we've got kids who are feeling anxious, who are going through burnout as kids.
Yeah, and it's funny, isn't it? Because in the 80s, which I mean, I was born in 85, but in the 80s and 90s.
Don't remember
I don't remember the 80s, but in the 90s, like, anxiety wasn't even a word I heard. Did you ever hear a friend say, "I'm anxious"?
No.
It wasn't, I mean, and maybe we just weren't educated enough to know the terms, and maybe we were. But it's like, now these tiny children are like, I have anxiety. I'm anxious.
Yeah. And they do.
And they do. Yeah, it's not like they're faking it.
Yeah.
I think that they do, but I think a lot of these are the reasons. Yeah.
But they're facing things like burnout. And it's like, well, and you're your kid, how can you suffer burnout? It's like, look at their schedule. They're literally going from point A to point B all day, every day, with no time to rest, no time to recover, no time to just sit back and chill.
Create.
And they've got all these burdens they're carrying, all these feelings, adult feelings of stress and performance and all this stuff. They're struggling from low self-esteem and different behavioral issues. They struggle to relax or just to enjoy playtime, because it's like, well, I know I got the homework, I've got practice, I've got this going on, I've got that going on. And it's really, what it comes down to is a loss of childhood. There's just no time to play, no time to really be free to use your imagination. Leisure times are minimized. And, you think about the toll that takes, because they're meant to be kids. And yes, our kids should have appropriate levels of responsibility and all that. We're not saying just throw it all out and just let them go outside and play all day. That's not at all what we're saying. But we need to recognize our children are children. And so my 4-year-old needs to do what 4-year-olds are supposed to do.
That's right. They need to be out there jumping in puddles when it rains.
And my 14-year-old should be doing what 14-year-olds need to do. And the responsibilities that go with that, but also, hey, she's just 14. And you think about some of the childhood milestones and exploration that are just rushed or completely just skipped over.
Yeah, because like this milestone doesn't matter because you're already chasing that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so here's some of the effects that you're going to see socially if your child has this hurried child syndrome. They might prefer adults over peers. And, we've all seen that. I think that that's a lot of times how I was growing up. But so sometimes
I was not.
It might be personality. No, you didn't want anything to do with adults. I loved sitting at a table with a bunch of adults and having the conversation or listening to theirs.
Yeah.
I always loved that.
Well, and I've never really, as an adult, I don't enjoy having conversation with kids. So it's like our girls would have friends over sometimes, and every once in a while you get one or two that it was like they wanted to talk to me for whatever reason.
What you doing? Why do you do that?
Yeah.
Where does that go? Why are you doing that?
And I'm just like, you're here to play with them. Like,
He would be like, go find Catherine.
Yeah, like you're go play with Abigail. Like I'm not here. This is not going on. Like I don't know what you're.
I'm shutting this friendship down. Like there's no friendship here.
No, I'm friends with those four because I'm their daddy. I'm not your father, so go play with the kids. Now I'd say it nicer than that, but
barely. But
or
yeah.
I would look for an escape. I'd like. Sometimes I give Lysandra like the help me eyes, like this kid's got me
cornered. Or he'd be like, go ask Miss Lysandra.
Yeah.
And he would so throw me under the bus.
Yeah, Miss Lysandra will help you with that.
Yeah.
But I never understood that personally because I didn't do that.
No.
Like I was not interested in sitting at the adult table.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm still not interested in sitting at the adult table.
You don't want to interact with the kids. You don't want to interact with the adults. What do you want?
Yeah.
You want to be alone in your room?
Yeah. No, alone on the beach somewhere is fine with me. Yeah.
But another aspect of, the social issues that come along with this is that these kids may lose interest in imagination or group play. So they're not really interested in any kind of imagination if there's not something to do, because they're so used to doing and being forced to do and having structured coaching or classes and all of that. So the imagination is just gone. There's no interest there. And you might find a strained parent-child relationship because of this, where the child may not necessarily be able to express why they're frustrated. And so rather than being able to express why they're frustrated, they will act out, or they're going to have issues and they have resentment toward their parents. Their parents don't understand why. The kids don't even really understand why, because they're being faced with adult issues that they aren't emotionally ready to verbalize or process. And now the parent and the child can't see eye to eye. The parent just thinks the child's a naughty, bad, whatever. And so you're going to find a lot of issues with the parent-child relationship. They may even have no motivation for any kind of creativity. Like they just lose that desire. And of course, we already talked a little bit about burnout, but the burnout can even come into social activities. Like they don't really have any desire to have friendships or group activities because they're just tired. They're so tired.
So you've got some of those emotional and social things that are happening, but there are things that happen physically as well, problems that arise because of it. And as we talked about, when we have this stress upon us, and all of us, doesn't matter who you are, if you have stress, that stress will manifest itself in different ways, even when we don't realize it.
Yep.
And sometimes physically there are things that happen where it shows up as headaches. Now I know Lysandra has this happen.
Absolutely. Stress headaches like crazy.
Yeah. And so like we would go into certain meetings that are regular scheduled meetings, and she would just, and there's nothing happening in the meeting.
Nothing negative. No, everybody's happy. Everybody's good.
She'd go get ready for this meetings, and all of a sudden, like an hour before the meeting, she would have a major headache.
And by the time the meeting was over, like it was a migraine. Like I could barely think.
And I'm just like, are you stressed about this situation? She's like, I don't think so.
I feel stressed.
Yeah. But it's like, it's showing up even whether we realize it or not.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
These physical things do happen.
And I remember my mom telling me about my grandma, because my grandma would get hives. She'd break out in hives at random.
Yeah.
And so she went to the doctor, and the doctor did all the tests trying to figure out why does this woman have hives. And finally the doctor said, your hives come when you're stressed. And she said, I don't have stress. And the doctor said, your body says you do. And so it can really happen.
Yeah. So it can show up as headaches for your kids, stomach aches, fatigue.
Yeah. Now, when I was a kid, I would get stomach aches from like emotional or social issues, any kind of friendship issues. I would get very, very physically sick to my stomach. And finally, my mom had to figure that out, that's why it was. But that may be happening to your kid.
You were feeling it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But, you talk about fatigue. There are times where your child is saying, hey, I'm tired, or I don't want to go more than usual. right?
Yeah.
It might not be laziness. It might just be stress.
Yeah. Now,
that's popping up.
wouldn't you say that this is sometimes a consequence of your stress? A symptom of your stress is fatigue.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
That's how it comes out for Thomas.
Yeah.
He's exhausted. He has no energy. He needs to lay down.
Well, and this just happened just a couple nights ago. It's like, we had a night where there was really nothing going on. I laid down. I had dinner around 6, and right after dinner, I laid down, and I slept until 4 in the morning, and it was time to get up to go to the gym. So for 10 hours, which is so rare for me.
You slept hard, like not tossing and turning, but like asleep.
I was out for 10 hours.
Yeah, and you had experienced a lot of stress and pressure those days leading up to that.
So your kids feel that too. So
Yeah.
it's not necessarily laziness. Sometimes it's just, all right, let's step back and see what's their schedule like. What are the demands that are being placed upon them, whether by me or somebody else? Mm-hmm. That can play a factor physically.
Absolutely. So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about preventing hurried child syndrome, because there is good news. Right now, it just sounds like a lot of negativity, like the sky is falling, right?
Well, and
all of our kids are messed up.
All of our kids are facing a lot. They're
Yeah.
facing a lot. And
Yeah.
it may not look like a lot for us as adults, but we're adults. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they're kids.
Right. But there is good news, and that good news is that you can prevent or reverse hurried child syndrome, okay? Just some mindful adjustments need to be made, all right? So we want to talk through some key strategies that are going to help you if you're seeing some of these symptoms play out in your kids, and you're seeing some of this stuff and you're like, okay, I thought that was normal kid behavior, but now I'm starting to wonder if my child is responding to our hurried schedule.
Yeah, and so one of the things that you want to do and strategies you need to use is to protect free play.
That's so good.
So kids need unstructured child-led play every single day.
Every day.
They need it.
And we think like, oh, Saturday.
Yeah.
Saturday you'll play.
Well, and we often look at it as a waste of time.
Right.
Like, it's not a waste of time. Just like they need food, they need water, they need love, they need physical affection, they need all those things. They need that time of play every single day.
Your kids need to hear you say, go play. When they're like, Mom, I'm bored, go play. I want to go to the park, go play. I want to have a friend over, go play. Like, they need to hear you say, nobody's going to, create a structured playtime or a craft for you or whatever. You go and you use your imagination and you go and play by yourself or with your siblings or whatever.
Yeah, where it's like, we're not talking about playing video games. We're not talking about watching TV. We're talking about you go out, unstructured, child-led play. This is how they learn to explore, imagine, decompress, like all of that. Now,
Yeah.
I have learned how to physically listen to my body. And so I know when I need to step away, when I need to rest, when I need to spend some time at the beach, when I need to take a nap. Like, I'm paying attention to all that. Your kids don't know how to do that.
And most adults don't know how to do that.
Like, you don't know how to
Kids
do
certainly
that.
don't.
Like, I help you do that.
Yeah, you do.
But
But you have to help your child do it as a parent. Thomas helps me to do it as my
Exactly.
spouse. And maybe you need to help your spouse, but all of us need to help our children
But
do it.
this is how your children decompress, is by, hey, just creating,
Yeah.
exploring, playing, like imagining these things, creating their worlds out of stumps and whatever else in their
Yeah.
backyard.
Well, and I think about that too, like now as an adult looking back to that playtime that we had, back in Walker, making the fort out of stumps and everything. And I'm like, when I think back to that, I can vividly remember the world we created. And with most women, your memories are tied very closely to your emotions. And when I remember that and I put myself back in that world, like the emotions are just like happiness, freedom, joy. It's so good. And like, you want that for your kid too, right? I know I want that for my kids.
Yeah, so make sure you're protecting that free play.
All right, so another thing that you can do to kind of prevent or reverse your hurried child syndrome is to support their emotional growth and really think about their feelings, think about where they are emotionally. So validate their feelings. When your child cries because they're tired and they don't want to go to the next thing, like, be like, I know you're tired. I understand you're tired. You should be tired. You have done a lot today. Validating their feelings, because all of those things are true. I'm not talking about lying to them where, like, if they've slept all day and done nothing and now you've got to go to grandma's house and mow grandma's yard and they're whining. You're not like, oh, I know you're tired, sweetie. It's been a hard, long day of napping. I'm not talking about that. But where emotions are real and reasonable, validate them. Hear them, speak them back to them. I understand why you are feeling XYZ. That's going to help this emotional growth that they are going through. And allowing them to fail and telling them it's okay to fail. Like, you failed, and not sugarcoating it. Because sometimes I think we want to be like, oh, good job when they failed. Like,
No, I wouldn't be like, yeah, that really sucked. Like,
yeah, exactly. But you can be like, listen, you didn't pass the test this time. You didn't make the team. You did fail this one, but it's okay to fail. Fail is a good thing. And share experiences where you failed and the things you learned from it and how the next experience was so much better because of that failure. Because I know you have your own story like that. So do I. Yeah. We grow from failure and help them, as Thomas was talking about, to look at failure as a teacher, not as the enemy.
Yeah, and this kind of leads into the next thing, and that is adjust expectations.
Yeah.
So focus on effort rather than perfection. Because once again, failure is not the enemy. Now, lack of effort is the enemy.
Absolutely.
So if you're giving your full effort, hey, that's great. We need to let our kids develop at their own speed. Not society's, not even your own expectations of how you think they should be developing. Mm-hmm. Now, if they're not putting in the full effort, that's something totally different. But if they're working and they're trying their hardest, whether it's studying, whether it's in sports or whatever, if they're trying their hardest, they're doing their best to improve, recognize that. Mm-hmm. Like, that is a win. That is a great thing. Perfection is not the goal.
Right. And keep in mind that adjusting the expectations, that these expectations you have can vary with each child. Yeah. You may have a child who's academically gifted. You can't look at the next child who comes up behind them and expect them to have the same academic excellence. They may be more athletic, or they may be better socially, or they may be artistic or whatever. And understanding, like, the expectations should vary with each child at each age. Also, I think that there is this idea of, like, well, my kids need to be as good, if you will, or as successful as my niece and nephew, because you're also probably still a little bit in competition with your brother and sister. Like, sometimes that sibling competition can come up and stay as you grow into adults. And now you're watching your nieces and nephews perform and you're like, why isn't my kid doing that over there?
Yeah.
And so keep those expectations appropriate, not based on society, not based on what your brother's kids or your sister's kids are doing, not based on what this one child in your family did and this other child now can't. Think about the expectations and adjust them properly. Another thing that you're going to want to do is create healthy boundaries. And the boundaries should protect your child from exposure to adult problems that they're not ready for. Once again, we talked a little bit about this specifically in the area of money on a previous episode.
Yeah.
And
we talked about it with sex before, the sex
absolutely.
Talk and all that kind of stuff, the right ages and all that.
Yep. And you can find that on previous episodes on our podcast. But you think about the adult problems that they're exposed to at such a young age. News, I hope you don't have the news on all the time in your house. If you do, God bless all of you. You all probably need therapy. News can just kill you. Death by news.
Yeah.
But family stress. This is adult problems. Like, your issues with your in-laws should not be discussed with your 6-year-old. Your issues with your adult brother and sister should not be discussed with your 11-year-old. And then that plays in with their cousins, and now they have issues with their cousins because my mom said your dad did da da da. Like, no. Protect that, create boundaries around these adult problems. Grown-up conversations. If you're sitting on the couch with your friends, your family members, and you're talking about adult issues, make sure the kids aren't listening. Think about who's around. Pay attention.
It's like, go play with your friends. And we told us to our kids before, hey, we're spending time with our friends. We're talking about our stuff. You go play with your friends.
Exactly. And think about the conversations you have with your spouse as well. Mom and dad's conversations should not be always listened in by the kids, especially when it's adult issues.
And this kind of goes along with protecting the free play, and that is scheduling downtime. Giving them time just to rest and do nothing.
Yeah.
Right? Rest is great. Kids different ages need different amounts of rest. So it's kind of interesting when kids are very small, hey, they need the rest time.
They need
their nap time, right? And it's like, if they don't get their nap, they're little monsters. And then a few years go by and they don't necessarily need that nap time anymore. And then they become teenagers and it feels like nap time needs to come back into play somewhere.
Yeah.
And then you're 44 and it's like, I rarely get a nap during the day, but when I do, I love it. Sunday's typically a nap day for me.
Yeah.
But your kids need that time to rest as well. Even if it's like, okay, they're not going to take a nap, but hey, can they just sit down and chill out and relax? Maybe it's just some quiet time or things like that.
A stack of books.
Yeah.
Give them a stack of kids' books appropriate for their age and say you have to lay in your bed for X amount of time. So that's really important. And then make sure that you're balancing learning with actual living. Okay, school activities are important. We very much believe in academics. We are not personally fans. I would say we didn't personally do the unschooled approach.
Yeah.
We believe in bookwork. We believe in math and reading and all of that. But we also believe in, helping them learn how to bake cookies, and they need to grow vegetables in the backyard, and how do you mow a yard, and like all the stuff like that. So balance that learning and living. Talking is important. Can they carry on a real conversation? Do they laugh? Do you have fun with them? Are you allowing your child to be goofy? Thomas was amazing with this. When our kids were little, I was all about like, did you brush your teeth? Did you go to the bathroom? Did you wash your hair? Did you da-da-da? He was like on the floor rolling with them, throwing them onto the couches. They're jumping off of the top of the couches onto his back, tackling him all 4-on-1. And he had fun with them. They laughed with their daddy. Mommy was super boring. But problem solving and learning how to solve their own problems, like not always fixing everything for them and just being a kid, like let them be a kid.
Yeah. And as we kind of get ready to close down the episode, I want you to think about this for a second and just understanding that childhood isn't a race. It's a phase of life. And I know for some of you, especially with small children, I remember this, like it feels like some of those phases last a long time.
Yes.
But here's the thing. Once it's gone, we can't get it back. Like we just had our second born graduate from high school, and so we're doing the photo collages and all this stuff, and I'm looking back at those times when she was just a little toddler, and we're looking at every phase of life. I can look over in the hutch over there, and I can see a picture of each one of my daughters and 1-year-old in their 1-year-old dress at their birthday party. Like that day's never coming back again. And so
you're killing me.
It's you can't get it back.
You can't get childhood
It's not
back.
a race. All right? It's the phase of life they're in. If we slow down and we protect their space to grow and let them feel what they feel, we're not just raising successful kids, we're raising whole humans. You don't need to do everything. You just need to do what's right for your child. And so understanding, the time that they're in, what's important for them, and all those sorts of things.
That's right, because balance is the key, not perfection.
Yeah.
You aren't going to be perfect. We aren't perfect. We don't ever claim to be. But we try to be balanced. We work really hard to encourage that age-appropriate, activities for free play and prioritize the emotional development and activities and living life and exposure to adult content when it's right, and allowing kids to have their own space and all those things that kind of come into play, trying to balance all of that so that we have a balanced, childhood for our kids rather than this hurried child syndrome. So think about the ways that you need to adjust and how can you balance things a little bit better.
And so the family meeting tonight is to sit down as husband and wife and just have a conversation about your children's schedules, first of all. And hey, what do those schedules look like? Are they balanced, as Lysandra was just mentioning? What about the exposure that your children have to adult content and pressures? Do you feel like you're doing a good job of allowing your children to develop at their own pace and just be the age that they are appropriately? And so there may be some changes that you need to make. Like after listening to this, maybe you understand, man, our schedules, it's not necessarily the content, right? But their schedules are just so full of so much stuff that they don't even have a chance to be kids anymore. And even as adults, like there are times where we have to sit back and look at our schedule. We were just talking about this just the other day.
We did, yeah.
We got away for 4 or 5 days, and it was just another reminder to stop and think like, hey, you know what? We need to take time just to spend together at the beach. Like maybe just take one morning a week, and we're going to protect that playtime, right? And so you may have to do that with your kids as well. It's like, what does the schedule look like? What about the adult content? Are we letting our 8-year-old be an 8-year-old? Are we letting our 17-year-old be a 17-year-old? And just having the proper expectations for the age and the development that they're in right now. And like we've talked about, every kid's going to be different. Your firstborn at 17 might be able to handle a little bit different than your secondborn at 17 or your fourthborn at 17, right? Because they're not all the same. But just having that conversation there about, hey, what does it look like for our kids? Where are some areas where we need to maybe improve?
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you for joining us today for this family meeting. Please go and subscribe to the Family Meeting Podcast from your favorite podcast provider. And if you found this information helpful, please share this episode on social media. You are the way that we get the word out that Family Meeting exists. So we need you to invite your friends and family to listen in with you, post it on your social media platforms, and let people know that Family Meeting exists.
To find more content and information Lysandra and I provide, you can go to our website, familymeeting.org. Or you can email us at info@familymeeting.org. We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's episodes. Maybe you have some more tips and advice on Hurried Child Syndrome, what you're doing for your children. We'd love to hear that. You can shoot us a text or a voice message at 904-257-3062.
And we want to invite you to join us next week for our family meeting as we discuss your marriage relationship. We want to talk about say what you mean what you say, but don't say it in a mean way. Because
I have no idea what you just said.
That's all right. I didn't think you'd follow me on that. But it's essentially speaking the truth in love.
Okay.
Being direct, but not being a jerk.
Okay. Yeah, I was just saying this Sunday. Mm-hmm. Is this where you got the idea?
No.
Okay.
I already had it written down, but you did say it on Sunday.
Because some people are just like, and this is kind of the gist of what I was saying, is like, some people, they use the guise of being authentic. Like, hey, that's just me, and I just speak my mind.
I'm blunt.
I'm like,
just what I am.
I'm just being real, and I'm like, no, you're just a real jerk. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, and you definitely don't want to be married to that person.
You do not. I'm sorry for you.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about that next week.
Thanks for joining us today for this family meeting. Have a great week, everybody. This meeting is adjourned. All right, Hurried Child Syndrome. Now you know what it is. I know what it is.
Now I know I have Hurried Adult Syndrome.
I feel like that sometimes, but once again, that's pretty much our own choosing. But
it is.
Maybe you need to step back and say, you know what? I need to reserve some time for myself, just to chill out, relax, have some fun.
Rest.
But think about your kids. Are you allowing them to be a kid at the age that they're at? yes, they should have appropriate responsibilities to go with the age that they're at, but they also should have the appropriate downtime and the playtime and all the stuff that goes with being the age that they are. And that can be difficult to do in the society that we're in, not impossible.
Right.
And so even if in just a little way today, you can take one step towards helping your child be a child, then you've done a good thing. So let us know what you plan to do or what your suggestions are for having your kids still be kids. Until then, see you next time.